So what is lit up inside of you? What's resonating for any of you?
I think the only comment I have is in the Zoom world. Anyways, there is no space, So, so so uh, in a way, it feels like I'm sitting next to all three of you. So,
Right? Yeah, that's really funny. I get that feeling also on Zoom. Like when I meet some of the people I've met only on Zoom and I meet them in person, I think, well, we already met, right? Nice to hug, but we were, right? It feels like we already met people when we meet them. That happened with me and Janine and also with Elaine. I got to meet Janine when I was in Copenhagen recently. And Janine came from, I always get my ends. Let's see if the Netherlands.
Yay.
They, and yeah, geography is not my strong suit. And yeah, it's so funny that it does feel like there's no space because it's all in our mind. Our reality is the way it is, the way we're seeing things. It is interesting, isn't it? That Sid could address a group of physicists and they could relate. They could relate to what he's saying. I mean, and I'm pretty certain that Sid never opened a book about physics. He knew nothing about what physicists were talking about other than what somebody would say to him. Hey, Sid, the physicists are talking about this. So interesting, isn't it? That is this, like, what Sid would call.
Oh, Laurie, your image froze. I'm not sure if you're still here. Oh, yeah, there you are. I see you move again.
Oh, you didn't see me for a while?
Mm.
Or you didn't see? Oh, you know why? It says my internet connection is unstable.
Ah,
Is that happening with you? Like, am
it's
I
all right.
freezing?
It's all
It's all
right.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I also heard there's no space and also no time. And it's funny because today I had been listening to George Pransky, and there's an audio recording of him about busy mind, and he talks about being very easily distracted and by this busy mind, and how when you slow down, it also affects how you perceive time, how busy your mind is. That if you have a very busy mind, it seems like you don't have enough hours in a day. And there's not enough time to get everything done. But when you get to slow down all the thinking, you get to be more in the moment. And then time becomes something different as well.
Natural, right? Haven't you experienced that?
Yeah. And the thing is, at both times, the principles are at work. So, like you were saying, Sachin, in the beginning, like how you cannot not do the principles. They are. Anything we experience comes through us via the principles.
We have the ability to think and we're conscious of what we think, and that's like projected out on the screen of life. George has a great, speaking of George Pransky, has a great metaphor for that. And picture of it is on his book of metaphors. It's a picture of a movie projector.
Mm.
So he describes it as, you know, the film reel of a movie projector has all of these little boxes of images. And that's like all the different thoughts that go through our mind. And we're conscious, which is like turning the light on the projector. The light shines through this reel that's turning, and we don't see them as separate images. It's just one big experience, the movie that we see. And the outlet you plug the whole thing into is energy, the source, electricity. That would be mind, the source of everything. Interesting, isn't it? I always loved that metaphor. So that's, you know, that's our experience, moment to moment, from birth to death. And you can see how people get caught up in anger, jealousy, anxiety, depression, and they don't realize that they're experiencing the story in their mind. And then the world has labeled these things as though they're something other than something that people made up. Yeah. Looks like we lost Elaine for a bit. There's Elaine. Maybe Elaine's having. Yeah, we see you coming and going, Elaine. Are you having that thing with internet like I was a minute ago, maybe? It's not storming here. That usually happens during storms with an unstable internet. Oh, you are. You're muted, Elaine. Yeah. You're having internet stuff too. Huh?
Yes, internet is not working.
Oh, but we're hearing you. We're
can hear
hearing
me?
and seeing
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe you're coming and going.
Yes.
Your internet is coming and going.
Yes, it is.
Oh. So yeah, that was great, Janine, that you brought up. You happen to just hear that recording by George rather, that time is altered by our state of mind. I certainly have noticed that in my life. How about the rest of you? Right? Have you noticed that too? That when you're really busy minded, you're trying to get everything done. It seems like time, you can't keep up. You can't keep up with the clock kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you slow down and you're not worried about keeping up with the clock, and it's like, it has amazed me that it's just amazed me that I have such a different relationship to time when I slow down.
Mm.
In fact, Janine, it looks like you're going to say something. I'm going to be able to still hear you. I have to go run into the other room because I think I left something on the stove. I'll be right back, but you can say what you're going to say because I will hear you.
Okay. What was I thinking? I've already lost my train of thought. I was saying I sometimes feel that I need to give myself permission to slow down because it
Mm.
feels like the other stuff that's in my head, that's the busy-minded stuff, is more important. And slowing down is equivalent to not caring, but being irresponsible, maybe even.
Mm.
Like, because these things have to get done, and yeah. But the moments when I had, let's say, the courage to let go, I know I became much more efficient and effective in what I was doing, and that things became much more easy. And nicer. Just it's way less frantic, smoother. Maybe I'm looking for the right word.
Smoother, less frantic. I like that. Yeah, I know. I can feel that too.
And sometimes I can
description.
also be very annoyed by knowing that I have a very busy, frantic mind, and I know I have to slow down. But in the moment, I find it really hard to do that, actually do that.
Yeah, I can relate. I think you've heard that I'm trying to go to sleep earlier. I have this midnight thing that's, I don't know, ingrained since I read Cinderella as a young girl, I think. You know, turns into a pumpkin at midnight. I don't know. Um, but I get into this mindset. I can relate so much to that, what you said, Janine. I get into this mindset of, oh, I can squeeze in one more task
Mm.
before I go to sleep, just one more task. And in my mind, that task is going to take 10 minutes. Well, guess what? It's a lot longer than 10 minutes. So, I'm getting better at remembering, there's going to be other tasks tomorrow. So what's the difference if you do it now or tomorrow? The
Yeah.
difference is you get less sleep. That's the difference. Yeah. You know what I'm interested in, Sachin? What would you love to know more about? You said that Jamie Smart's book, Clarity. Like, how did that wind up in your hands? I love hearing how people find the principles and said,
Yeah. I think I got introduced to Michael Neal first, and I think that is where it started. Uh, but like, I mean, to be very frank, I'm just looking for some kind of more mentorship, because books are not helping much, if frankly. In fact, they're making me think more instead of quieting my mind. And I'm just interested to know what is the key to quiet the mind and what comes in the way, because uh, I don't know, like even now I'm thinking a lot. And uh, and uh, and how, those three principles can help in the mental health, overall well-being. So anything, will be helpful. I mean, everything will be helpful, not anything, everything will be helpful.
yeah, we all want to be as mentally healthy as possible, as often as possible. And these books introduce you to the fact that, you know what? When you understand how we work as humans, you automatically get more mentally healthy because you're more settled down. You're not as all over the place with your thinking. I'm speaking for myself here. And it's really so simple, yet so profound when you see it, when you start to see it, because I'll tell you, I've been around this, believe it or not, before you were born, Sasheen, I'm sure. 1985 is when I first met Sid Banks. And boy, did my life change incrementally. I would say even in the last few years, it's way better than it was just a few years ago. And I mean, Sid's been gone off the planet for many years. So how do you put that together? Because once you see it just even a little bit, like whatever you saw in the two books from Michael and from Jamie, got you curious and wanting to see more. And that to me is where the rubber hits the road. When you get curious and you want to see more, you like, it's kind of like being a kid in a candy shop. Like, what else can I see? And then your state of mind lifts incrementally. It's the way it has felt to me. Yeah, there's not much that gets me upset anymore. I just find it really interesting. Not that I'm a pushover or I'm giving in to people. No, in fact, it's the reverse. I'm able to say, doesn't quite feel right to me, so I'm not going to go in that direction. I'll go in this direction. It's like we see how to tap into wisdom more than into our personal ego, our intellect. Our intellect will feed us all kinds of hogwash. The hogwash I was feeding myself before I met Sid was that I wasn't good enough, smart enough, pretty enough, this enough, that enough. I needed more of this and less of that, and all the judgment, all the negative judgment, and what was the result? I felt pretty depressed.
It's not an intellectual understanding.
Yeah.
It's more feeling and getting to see more and more. So when you listen to someone like Sid, it's more important that you get a nice, quiet feeling and that you really understand, because he talks pretty cryptic. It's pretty cryptic what he says. But I found this one, and I really like this metaphor. When what we do with our mind is this: we shake the snow globe in our head. So we have lots of thinking, and then you can't really see clear. But when you want clarity of mind, all you do is nothing, because we have a built-in gyrometer that settles the mind. It will automatically do that. That's our homeostasis. So other than, it's not a technique, the three principles. It's not something you do. There's nowhere to go, nothing to do. You can't think your way out of it. That's why I often go wrong, because I try. But then you add another layer of thinking, and what you're doing is revving up your thinking again. And I can tell you that that's actually how it works. And I trust me, I know that's how it works, but it doesn't mean I never struggle with that again. But yeah, that's actually what happens. And I see it as that you get more space in your head as your mind really settles. And then there's this quiet voice that will come through. Like, I'm sure we've all had experiences of being in the flow or being in the zone or whatever you call it. It's not that you're not thinking in that moment. There is thought, but there's never second guessing on every thought that is in your head when you're in the zone or in a flow state. But you can't say to yourself, so now I'm going to get into the flow. That's not, because when you try, it's like putting a stick with a carrot in front of you, trying to chase the carrot, and you will never get there. So maybe in some way we all have to trust that we actually do have well-being and peace of mind ingrained in our system. And the more we think, the more we cloud our thinking. That was what was very, that's what I think what struck me when I read the book Clarity by Jimmy Smart.
Beautiful description, Janine. Thank you for that. It's such a beautiful, right on. Yeah. It's not in what Janine said, it's not an intellectual figuring out. It's a seeing. That's why they call it an understanding. Like we get an understanding at a deeper level than the intellect. Yeah. And it just happens on its own, just from being curious, wanting to hear from the people in the community, which is what happens here. What happens when you go on any webinars in 3PGC, you just hear from other people what they've seen. And then you start seeing for yourself.
You've already got it. It's already
Yeah.
here, right now.
That's right. It's just the thinking that gets in the way. Thinking like, I don't know enough. I need to understand it more. I need to know more. That kind of stuff. Which doesn't mean, we're not saying don't come back. We're saying, stick with us. Because I've been doing this for a few years now, and I still look forward to every Tuesday at 12 noon. We were doing it at different times a few years back, but this seems to be working for the majority, except in India, it's after 9:30 going on 10 now, but yeah. So, that's the lovely thing is having a community of people who are intrigued, curious, looking in the same direction of what Sid uncovered way back in the early 70s, that everybody is born with innate health, innate mental well-being. Look at babies. It's when we grow up and we start thinking against ourselves and collecting all these thoughts that get in the way, like that snow globe. What a beautiful visual that we get our mind all cluttered with a lot of stuff. And then if you just like let it settle, you're back in your innate well-being. Happens to people before they've ever heard of Sid or the three principles. It just happens to all people. But most people think, well, that's just a fluke. That they have to worry, they have to be concerned with life, they have to plan out every minute, they have to do this, they have to do that, they have to work until they can retire. All that thinking that clouds their well-being. That's why we hear the stories about people finally getting to retirement and they drop dead because they spent their whole working life worried and concerned and, rushing to get to retirement, and then they get sick and die. Retirement is right now.
Mhm.
Right now. It's a state of mind. One of the jokes currently in the Three Principles community is Jack Pransky, who talked about a year or two ago that he's now in retirement. Well, he's never had more opportunities to share the principles around the globe. And he realized, yeah, this isn't, what am I retiring from? I love doing this. Funny, isn't it?
What's on your mind?
You asking Sachin?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, like as I said, I'm still new in this journey, and when you say this should not be the case, so it sounds like you're describing me. So, like worrying all the time about the future, and I know it is possible not to worry, but it is just that uh, it is just that uh, like maybe some more uh, maybe not knowledge, but like more support, I think is required.
What do you mean by more support?
I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm like as I said, like I'm always worrying. You mentioned about retirement because I'm loving what I'm doing. So what to retire from? Um, and when I think about those things, like money worries me sometimes. Like, uh, okay, I have things which I love to do, but what about money? And I mean, I can go into that positive psychology, no, like everything will be fine and like those kind of things, but I somehow avoid going in that direction. But I know these three principles are much more deeper, but I'm just yet to find the real uh, experiential, I think maybe thing. Maybe.
Beautiful. Yeah. See, you've already seen that it's deeper than positive psychology. It's deeper than telling yourself it'll all work out. You know, that doesn't work out when you don't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm,
No,
mhm.
it's nothing. It's what I love about this understanding. It's nothing you have to believe in because you'll see it as you go through life. Like, think something will happen and I'll go like, oh man, I think that's what Sid meant when he said whatever, like, don't listen to my words, look for a nice feeling. Like Janine expressed that so well. Look for a nice feeling. And then wisdom speaks to you about um, what to do. Work less, work more because you love it, find a different job. I mean, wisdom will guide you. And so many people, all the way, America, India, and everything in between, all the countries in between have this for the most part. I think Scandinavia less so, actually. I don't know. You would know better than me, Janine, but it seems like most of the world is under this hypnotic thought that it's like a thought habit. We have to worry in order to succeed. Some rendition of that. That
Mm.
people who succeed worry. There's some
Yeah.
idea like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
It's very
And the
ingrained as
funny
in
thing is,
mental.
I saw less of that when I was in Copenhagen.
Oh, is
People
there?
didn't worry, but boy, they worked. And they love, well, at least the people I was with love their work. But we all had our laptops out, as soon as dinner was over, okay, laptop time, we had stuff to do, but we were loving it. They were helping their kids on their laptops with their homework. Kids weren't always loving it. But to me, I wanted to know what they were learning. Isn't that interesting? The kids who were on their laptops, I'm just realizing this talking to all of you, they had a bunch of thinking about homework stuff. And you could see on their faces, oh, I really don't want to be here. But I'm like, I kind of wanted to look over their shoulder and see what they were learning.
Mhm.
Curious. I want to, I'm in learning mode, I want to learn. And so it's all how we, and this is going to sound outside in like something to do. And I don't mean it as something to do. It's something to see, that it's how we think about things that it affects our experience of it. If we're thinking this is homework and it sucks, we're going to have a bad experience about whatever's on the laptop. But if we're thinking about, oh man, this is kind of interesting, I want to learn more about this topic, then we're
That's a
intrigued, and that feels good. Somebody
That's a
just said
natural
something.
state. That's a natural state that comes through. You don't have to do anything for it. It will occur to you. You will know. And every one of us has had experiences, whether you know about the principles or not. So it happens. It happens to me because you were talking about sleep, Laurie. I often have to wake up I wake up in the middle of the night because I have to go to the bathroom, but then my mind switches on. But because I don't know, sometimes or very often, my head becomes very clear because there's no second guessing or there's way less worry or something. So during the day, I might have struggled to write a piece for work, a white paper or something, and I couldn't get it out of my on paper, and I've been struggling with the paper to write it for, let's say, 1.5 an hour. And then when I wake up in the middle of the night and I go to the bathroom, and then suddenly I know, oh yeah, that's the way. And then 5 minutes, done. And I tend to immediately want to write it into our Teams environment, the Microsoft Teams environment. But my colleagues have noticed that when you log in, you can tell who was the last person to open a folder into Teams. So they comment on, what are you doing on your laptop at 3 a.m. in the morning? You should sleep. But when that happens, I really like it because I'm way more effective, and it feels so satisfying. So then oftentimes I do fall asleep and very happily contented because I finished the piece I was struggling with during the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. Wow, isn't it? How we create our own experience, not realizing it. So speaking of waking up in the middle of the night, I'm going to stop the recording now. We're just towards the end here, and I'll tell you something. There we go.